The Yalta Conference brought together three of the most prominent Allied leaders of World War II. Franklin D. Roosevelt represented the United States, Winston Churchill represented the United Kingdom, and Joseph Stalin represented the Soviet Union. This conference marked one of the last times that these leaders met in person during the war. The conference was held at the Levadia Palace in Yalta, Crimea. The choice of location was partly due to its relative accessibility for the leaders and because the Soviet Union had pushed the Germans out of the region by early 1944. The conference took place from February 4 to February 11, 1945. It was a crucial moment in the final stages of the war in Europe. The Yalta Conference's primary agenda was to plan for the post-war world. The Allies sought to discuss the fate of Nazi Germany, the establishment of a new international organization, the United Nations, and the reorganization of Eastern Europe. The fate of Poland was a significant point of discussion. The leaders agreed to recognize a provisional Polish government that included members of the London-based Polish government in exile and those backed by the Soviet Union. They also agreed to hold free and fair elections in Poland to determine its final government after the war. This decision was instrumental in shaping Poland's post-war political landscape. The division of Germany was a central topic. It was decided that Germany would be divided into 4 occupation zones, each controlled by one of the Allied powers: the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and France, although France's role was limited compared to the other 3. Berlin, despite being deep in the Soviet zone, would also be divided into 4 sectors. The leaders discussed reparations from Germany, with a focus on dismantling German industry and redistributing it among the Allies. The specifics of reparations would be determined later at the Potsdam Conference. The Yalta Conference played a pivotal role in laying the groundwork for the establishment of the United Nations. The leaders discussed the structure of the new international organization, including the Security Council's composition and powers. Stalin used the conference to seek assurances for expanding Soviet influence in Eastern Europe. This would ultimately lead to the establishment of pro-Soviet governments in countries like Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia, contributing to the early stages of the Cold War. A declaration was issued during the conference, commonly known as the Declaration on Liberated Europe, which affirmed the principle that the people of liberated Europe should have the right to choose their form of government through free elections. This was a key principle, but its implementation would vary in practice. Stalin pledged to enter the war against Japan once Germany was defeated. The date for the Soviet Union's entry into the Pacific War was set for 3 months after Germany's surrender, which would eventually contribute to Japan's decision to surrender in August 1945. The leaders discussed preliminary agreements for the structure of the United Nations, which would be formalized later in the year at the Dumbarton Oaks Conference. This conference laid the foundation for the UN's establishment. While there was a general consensus on many issues, disagreements arose regarding the future of Poland. Stalin pushed for a pro-Soviet government, which concerned the Western Allies who wanted free and fair elections to determine Poland's post-war government. These differences would exacerbate tensions in the coming years. The leaders also discussed humanitarian concerns, including the repatriation of prisoners of war and displaced persons. They agreed on principles to ensure humane treatment and the safe return of those affected by the war. Stalin secured special Soviet interests in specific regions, including Outer Mongolia, the Kuril Islands, and Manchuria, as a reward for the Soviet Union's commitment to fighting Japan. The Declaration on Liberated Europe emphasized the principle of non-interference and non-expansion in the internal affairs of liberated European countries. This principle aimed to prevent further territorial acquisition by the Soviet Union in Eastern Europe. The Yalta Conference effectively solidified the spheres of influence in Europe, with the Soviet Union gaining dominance in Eastern Europe, and the Western Allies exercising more influence in Western Europe. This division contributed to the emerging Cold War. Similar to Germany, it was agreed to divide Austria into 4 occupation zones, reflecting the post-war disposition of the country. The leaders stressed the importance of post-war cooperation and pledged to work together to address global challenges and promote peace. This cooperative spirit was a central theme throughout the conference. The Yalta Conference holds immense historical significance as it laid the foundation for the post-war world order, and the Cold War that was to come out of World War II. It set the stage for the division of Europe and the beginning of the Cold War, as well as the establishment of the United Nations, which remains a crucial international organization to this day.